Hello friends, the Indian education system is plagued with a number of issues, be it concerning accessibility, quality, equity, lack of humanity and values, discrimination, hate content, etc. Today, we are in need of an education system that would be erected on constitutional ethos and ensure that accessibility, quality and equity is ensured for all, along with the necessary improvement in curriculum and pedagogy that would ensure every citizen's true progress in every way. We need an educational system that would foster critical thinking and research to improve human life, and educational campuses that would be interactive spaces for productive critical discourses, discussions and dissent. The National Education Policy 2020 NEP 2020 is rife with contradictions and exclusions. It breaks constitutional structures and values, promotes commercialization, politicizes educational system by centralizing all aspects of it, and makes a blatant attempt to saffronize the Indian education system and indoctrinate Hindutva ideology among the masses through education system. Apart from this, many educationists have called this policy a hollow dream with no roadmap on how to achieve it. Today in this video, let us look into 4 points because of which this policy has seen so much of opposition. Before we move ahead, please subscribe to the Upfront and press the bell icon to get notification of all our updates. I'm Nihal Muhammad and you're watching the Upfront. The English version of the NEP 2020 is 66 pages long, divided into 4 parts and 27 sections. The 4 parts deal with school education, higher education, other key areas of focus and implementation. A thorough analysis of the policy reveals several issues which can be broadly classified under 4 areas: accessibility and equity, communalization, commercialization and centralization. Most of the issues are rooted in and fall within one or the other of these 4 areas. Point number 1. Accessibility and equity. The draft NEP 2019 had proposed extending the RTE Act to cover the entire school education from ECCE age 3 onwards till higher secondary age 18. However, the final NEP 2020 has entirely omitted this great initiative in favor of allowing private initiative to fill the gap left by the government. The failure to implement the neighborhood school system more than 70 years after the independence and 10 years since the RTE Act has brought the school education to a halt. To bridge the gap left by neighborhood schooling system, the government had pushed for low-cost private schools to fill the gap. Usually these schools lack the basic and bare minimum infrastructure and facilities. The policy is entirely silent on the question of children in distress and conflict, such as children in conflict with law, children who have been victims of trafficking and child labor, refugee children, children of tribal, nomadic and migrant communities, and children born and raised in prisons with their mothers. This betrays a scant lack of respect to the question of access of education as well as that of the substantive implementation of right to education for all, not just for a few. Ever since the first national education policy, there have been consistent recommendations in each policy to spend around 6 to 7% of GDP on education, which NEP 2020 also reiterates. However, the policy is not very clear as to how funds will be generated and in what effective manner will they have to be spent to ensure comprehensive and systematic transformation of the education system. To put this into perspective, the current levels of expenditure on education by the central government for the fiscal year 2019-20 comes to about 0.45% of India's GDP, and the share of spending on education is a paltry 3.4% of the total government spending. The lack of investment in education infrastructure by the governments is the reason why the Indian education system is facing systematic hurdles that prevents universal and equitable access to quality education at all levels. The effects of lack of investment are not only limited to infrastructure but has also brought to the fore the questions of accessibility, equity and quality which the government has neglected over the decades. This has crippled and stunted the entire public education system, both school and higher education, in terms of accessibility, research, innovation and development. From school education to higher education, the education system breaks down and fails to respond in the times of crisis. The pandemic has thrown this into sharp relief. Lack of comprehensive, systematic and long-term investment is a major hurdle in overcoming the systemic problems in the Indian education system. The government is bound by the constitution to ensure equal and accessible quality education to all its citizens. However, socio-historical marginalizations prove to be a major hurdle in achieving this. The framers of the constitution made provisions for affirmative action to correct socio-historical marginalizations and dispossession. Reservation quotas are one such correctional measure for socio-economic disparities, while accessibility of education is a much discussed issue even if not correctly addressed one. Equality in education, especially equality of access, is not given as much consideration. Financial interventions such as scholarships, which are stressed somewhat in that policy, while important and necessary, will not overcome this basic question of accessibility for those who have been socio-historically kept out and marginalized from the education system. The policy fails to include an unambiguous commitment to reservation in education, whether for public or private institutions. There is a major push for digital learning alternatives in the policy. Given the lack of uniform access to technology such as high-speed internet, access to television, etc., in India, this would inevitably result in disadvantaging the students from rural areas and marginalized communities, geographical, economic, as well as socio-historical marginalizations, as it places hurdles for them to attend online classes or online examination or access any other online resources. While the shift towards digitalization has its benefits, the lack of accessibility will result in further marginalization of students from the already disadvantaged backgrounds and communities. Another major omission in the policy has to do with the democratic environment in educational spaces. Apart from conducting regular and fair student union elections, campus environment must foster the values of constitutionalism, social justice, and be nurturing spaces for dialogue, discussion, and dissent in a healthy manner. This is an intrinsic part of education and necessary in shaping social responsibility in students apart from knowledge. This betrays the fact that the policy merely aims for generating trained labor for job markets and not actually aspire for molding educated, conscientious, and humane members of the society. Point number 2, communalization. The policy favors a three-language formula. Initially, it was proposed that Hindi will be compulsory for all, but with the backlash from the non-Hindi states, this was dropped. The final policy adds a caveat to this, that while there will be no compulsion regarding the languages to study, at least 2 out of 3 languages chosen must be Indian languages. This is very clearly an attempt to forcibly impose Hindi on everyone. There is a recurrent targeted promotion of Sanskrit and Hindi throughout the policy, given the Constitution's guarantee of equal treatment of all languages and cultures with the inviolable right to preservation and promotion. This is very clearly a violation of Constitution in favor of narrow ideological impositions. References are made throughout the policy to the ancient Indian traditions and values, Indian knowledge system, Indian history, etc. The policy projects a very limited idea of India and Indian, homogenizing India's heritage, subsuming all in a single hegemonic overarch ignoring the equal stake and contributions of different religious, regional, ethnic, and languages communities in making the composite idea of modern India/Indian. The fact is that every single community is an inalienable and co-equal part of the Indian society, traditions, and histories. All these are an attempt to systematically homogenize the society under one culture, one religion, one language notion of Hindutva imagination of New India. The rising instances of discrimination and hate violence on the grounds of religion is worrying. Hate content in curriculum directed against specific religious communities is exacerbating the situation. While the policy speaks of ethical education and sensitization of schools, campuses, and all educational spaces, it fails to directly pinpoint the recurring pattern of hate and prejudicial content in syllabi across the nation. It briefly highlights the need to rectify biased representation of power balances in syllabi, but does not explicitly address the question of caste, religious, or other forms of discriminations in textbooks. This whitewashing is really concerning and alarming. Frequent changes and conflicting accounts in history have very adverse and enduring impact on students and threaten the harmony and social cohesion of India. There should be a cognizance and acknowledgement of the systematic and institutional discrimination and atrocities against students of minority and marginalized sections in the educational institutions, which is noticeably absent in the policy. Point number 3, commercialization. The policy betrays a market-oriented outlook for higher education. The recent history of India's education sector, particularly post-liberalization, privatization, globalization, has proven that focusing merely on enrollment has led to increased massification of higher education while incurring social costs, affordability, equity, and quality. Without a substantive increase in government spending and commensurate emphasis on making education accessible and equitable, the target GER will aggravate the current situation of commercialization. The policy takes a deeply contradictory approach towards the increasing commercialization of education in India. While the draft attests the public good nature of education, it does so while posting a commercialized form of education throughout the draft. It does not adhere to this assertion, both by failing to redact many of the existing measures which have led to commercialization and by actively proposing a market model of education. Examples of this include the scope for international universities to open shop in India. Obviously, only the select few having the requisite socio-economic capital will have access to such elite spaces. Similarly, in the push for autonomy, there are logic confounding aspects such as self-declaration of finances by private higher education institutes. Private institutions have a parasitic relationship with the inefficient public education system. While privatization can be rationalized given the burgeoning demand and the limited capacity of the government to respond to it, the commercialization aspect runs counter to the very idea of public good and nature of education. No progress in the direction of equitable education is possible without addressing the issue of commercialization. If the policy intends to uphold the public good nature of education, then it must remove all hurdles in the path of ensuring equitable access to all, including commercialization. Privatization without any strict regulation and oversight will inevitably result in commercialization that will choke public good nature of education. The policy limits freedom and participation of all stakeholders in the educational spaces. One example is how the policy is silent on unionization of teaching and non-teaching staff. Many teachers find themselves unpaid, exploited, overworked, and subject to contractualism with no grievance redressal or scope for direct communication with the management of educational institutions given the highly centralized nature. There should be adequate and democratic representation and participation of teaching and non-teaching staff in the decision-making process of educational institutions. Point number 4, centralization. Every education policy that has come into effect since the independence has been framed after due democratic process and consensus building. The commission that drafts the policy has to hold wide-ranging consultation with the public and take their concerns into consideration. Similarly, once the draft policy is ready, it is to be presented before the parliament for debate and discussion before it is finalized by the parliament. This ensures that the public and their representatives are consulted and consensus is built before bringing any policy into force. However, with respect to NEP 2020, due democratic process has been flouted. During the drafting process, consultations were selectively held and there was selection bias in accepting public concerns with marked preference for the ideological affiliates of the ruling dispensation. Once the draft was finalized, instead of presenting it to the parliament, the cabinet approved it and declared its enforcement without building consensus in the parliament. This has been a major flaw in this policy and is a serious concern as it fits in the wider pattern of utter disregard for due democratic process by the current ruling party. Another major issue is the obsession by this government to centralize and control the educational bodies. Several centralized bodies such as the National Testing Agency, National Research Foundation, Higher Education Commission of India, etc. are proposed in the policy. These bodies will be directly under control of ruling party in the center. Such centralized bodies under one command will inevitably fall prey to the political expediency of ruling parties. Education has been a subject of the concurrent list ever since the 42nd Amendment and as such is under equal purview of the union and state governments. Instead of granting autonomy, centralization and direct control of these bodies is in gross violation of the constitution and threatens the federal structure of Indian Union. The mark of any robust and efficient education system is that it should ensure universally accessible and equitable quality education. It should provide a conducive environment marked by intellectual freedom to ensure tremendous knowledge production. NEP 2020 is ambitious and proposes many reforms. However, how much of that will successfully translate into implementation remains to be seen. Given the intentions and performance of the government, there is not much hope. Much of the policy seems to be an amalgamation of Hindutva ideology and crony capitalism. There is a very clear ploy at play in the policy to push the ruling party's agenda through the back door. If you like the content we provide, please subscribe to the Upfront and press the bell icon to get notification of all our recent updates. Please share our videos and educate others. Thank you.